Hello and welcome to the Thoughts Night podcast. It's John with Frank Turner. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. 2020 has been quite the year, shall we say? But I probably have less to complain about than some, so I'm not going to complain.
Fair enough. Well, actually bring me on to the first question, which was how have you found 2020 as a whole? Obviously, you've still been quite productive, releasing music, but
Yeah. It's been, broadly speaking, it's been a nightmare, let's be honest. I mean, I was in the middle of a tour and I had dates booked through to the end of the year and I had studio sessions and, I had a plan. I mean, like many people, and that all, it was just like somebody found the off switch to my life and went, pew. That was really shit. The hardest part of that was cancelling Lost Evenings because that's the thing it's my festival. I've been working on it for years. It was going to be number 4 this year, and it was going to be the biggest one yet. And we had an amazing lineup and took for fucking ever to book and all this kind of thing. And it was just like, gone. The day that happened, I had to go and like walk around the forest and scream at a tree for a bit. Do you know what I mean? It was like that was pretty miserable. But I mean, one of the main things for me is that like I've learned over the years that I'm somebody who suffers quite a lot if I'm not busy. If I don't have like structure and routine in my life, I tend to get into bad habits. And the first couple of weeks of lockdown felt a bit like the day you get back from tour, but Groundhog Day. As in the day you get back from tour, you tend to just like sit on the sofa in your pants and watch Netflix and drink a bottle of wine. And I was doing it every single day, and it was like this is probably not good. So I started sort of trying to keep busy. There's been projects going on and there's been music release and there's been live stream shows, and I've sort of taught myself more how to kind of like mix and engineer records and stuff like that, because that's a skill I wanted to learn and keep them busy. I mean, it's funny, like a lot of people who've been looking at what I do going, oh my God, you're so insanely busy. And it's kind of like, to be honest, I'm about as busy as I usually am, but what usually happens is that busyness is focused geographically. So I go and be busy in Berlin for a day, and I'll be busy in Cologne for a day, and I'm busy in Paris for a day, which means that the world as a whole is not subjected to me 24/7. Whereas now, because we're all doing everything through the internet, it's like everyone's getting everything. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, so a lot of people are like, Jesus Christ. And whereas for me, it's not that much more hectic than it usually is. But, you've got to keep busy. It's been a tough year, but we've all got to adapt, I suppose, is the thing.
yeah, I mean.
So, speaking of busyness, you and John released Buddies 2.
Yeah.
How's that going? Because
Well,
I
that was
listened to it, and it was I really liked it. Like how it's kind of like seems like it's kind of like a documentary. like in a way, like you do a song, and then like you talk about there's a song written about a specific person. I thought it was really clever.
Yeah, thank you. It was a load of fun. So we did one 10 years ago we did a record called Buddies that we wrote in one day and then recorded in the following day. And the original one had a lot of chat in between the songs because it was just vocals and guitar, and we were pretty much recording it as we went, and we were drinking quite a lot, if I'm honest with you. And so the first one, I mean, I love the first record, but it's pretty incoherent, truth be told. And so this classic example of what we were just talking about at the beginning of lockdown, it was like, what am I going to do with my time? And then I think John texted me and said, it's been 10 years, which first of all made me go, Jesus Christ, where does time go? But then, it was like, well, I was like, I'm not doing anything. Do you want to do it again? And he said, yeah. So we got on this day-long kind of Skype call with each other and wrote 10 songs in a day. And like last time, some of them are good and some of them are ridiculous. We then took longer recording it this time around using my newfound skills. And we got Stefan from Descendants played drums on it, which I'm super stoked about. And I sort of put it together as more of a proper album. But then at the end of it, it was like, well, what was one of the things that was cool about the first one was all the chat in between the songs. And how are we going to do that? Because obviously you're in Colorado and we're not recording songs to go. So we just similar thing. We just kind of set up a long Skype call and we're recording each other with microphones at each end and just sort of talk bollocks about the songs for like an hour. And then I kind of chopped it down to the bits that were slightly more coherent and put it on the record. So it's slightly more constructed than it was last time. But I mean, that's because we're locked down 6,000 miles away from each other.
Yeah, what are your plans to go about promoting it? Like, you got a tour plan. Obviously, it's a bit difficult in the current environment, but
yeah. Well, okay. So the thing with that is that, like, so I've put out a bunch of stuff this year. Did a live record, come out. I did a split with NoFX. Did the thing with John. There's actually another side projecty thing that I'm working on that I can't tell you any more about now, but it's coming soon. And the thing is, the reason I'm doing all that kind of thing is that, I mean, I was going to be recording an album this year to release early next year. At the moment, we're trying to figure out if it's possible to record it remotely. But even if we do, I'm probably not going to release like a kind of, this is a kind of crappy expression, but like a frontline me album until I can tour it properly, because that's how I promote stuff. Do you know what I mean? There are artists in the world, and generally in the kind of pop and hip hop worlds, who can promote a record without going on tour. I'm not one of them. And I can't really see the point in releasing like a major sort of frontline record until I can tour it, because it'll just die, you know, in the way these things do. Whereas, and this is, I don't want to belittle any of these projects that we're chatting about, but putting out a live record or a split or a Buddies record, I'm kind of more comfortable with just promoting that in a 2020 kind of remote kind of way. Because it's not that I don't care about them, that's not what I mean at all, but do you know what I mean? They're not quite the kind of like the absolute center of what I care about, do you know what I mean?
More of like a side project. So it's...
Well, exactly, you know, and that's the thing. And like, and also, I mean, I do think it's kind of cool putting stuff out during 2020, because there's a lot of people sitting around with very little to do. So, you know, there's time to check out new records and all the rest of it.
Yeah, always amazing. I mean, we wouldn't have even started this without the lockdown. So
well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. And now that where it is, it's gone a bit mental, really.
It's good.
So Blink-182, touring with them, how was that?
Oh, it was awesome. The story of how that came together was really funny, because it was one of those moments when all of the kind of rigmarole and grandeur and nonsense about how the music industry at that level is supposed to work kind of completely evaporated. The tour got announced. I saw an advert online, and I was in America somewhere on tour, but I was reading NME.com or something, and there was an advert for Blink-182 arena tour the following summer, and I was like, fuck, I want to get on that tour. But thinking to myself, it's going to be hard, because there's going to be a million bands trying to get on that tour. But as I'm sure you know, obviously Skiba have recently joined Blink-182, and I've known Skiba for years. So I just called Skiba and said, hello, mate, you know, any chance of putting a word in? And Skiba went, oh yeah, okay. And then I said, what we can do. And he hung up, and he said he got into the next kind of band meeting they had, like with management and agents, sort of in a boardroom or whatever a band at that level does. And he said he suggested it, and everyone went, oh yeah, that's cool. And then we got a call back saying, yeah, you got the tour. And like, you know, I was like, what? Because usually for an arena tour support slot, there's going to be bids, there's going to be managers shouting at each other, there's going to be people offering money to get the slot, which I hate instantly. Buying on, it's a nightmare. And in fact, I just made one phone call to a mate, and he sorted it out, and we got the tour, and it was awesome. They were lovely, really, really lovely to tour with, really nice people. Obviously, I know Skiba the best, but made friends with Mark and Travis as well. And, you know, we had a good old time. We played to a shitload of people, which is... and also, I mean, trying to phrase this carefully, but like, it's kind of a lot of fun being a support act for two reasons. First of all, there's kind of a pleasant challenge to it. You walk out in front of 10,000 people, most of whom don't know or care who you are. And it's like, right, I've got 40 minutes to turn this around. And that's quite cool. And then also it means you're generally done by about 9 p.m. every day, which means you can just go and get drunk and hang out with friends or whatever. So there was a fair amount of that going on as well.
I was really gutted, because I was meant to go to that tour, but the Bournemouth date got cancelled.
Yeah. I think Mark was sick from memory.
Yeah. I was looking forward to it. And then,
I ended up doing a show that night at the old fire station, actually. We threw a thing together. It was really last minute and completely chaotic. But kind of fun. I mean, you know, moments like that on a tour can be the most memorable bit sometimes, because it was not planned.
Obviously, you've played with some amazing artists over the year, but if you could play with anyone, who would it be?
Who I haven't played with as yet, as it were.
Yeah.
That's a big question. I mean, were you doing current bands only, or bands that have existed?
I would say we'll do Dead or Alive because, for me, one of my favorite artists is David Bowie. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, I wish I would give anything in the world to have played the show with Fugazi. Fugazi are one of my all-time favourite bands. I was lucky enough to see them once, and they were transformatively brilliant. And they quite often had quite bad support bands as well. He said, bitchy, bitchy, bitchy. But like, I mean, I just fucking love that band. I absolutely love them, and would love to have to play with them. I mean, beyond that, I mean, Nick Cave. There you go. I adore Nick Cave a lot. I met him once and he was really nice, and I was so nervous that I just came across like a complete arse. And I wish I could have a do-over. But yeah, I mean, there's many to choose from.
Yeah, fair enough. So, like, you've played a lot of shows in your time, and you managed somehow to remember how many shows you played, which is incredible. So which was going to be really hard once you played so many, but what has been your favourite gig?
That is a tough question. Instantly, do I remember the numbers because they're written down on a list on my website? So it's funny. There are some people who seem to think I've got like this kind of like Rain Man memory for show numbers, and I absolutely don't. When I write the set list, I scrub out what was there the day before and add one, and there you go. And if I need to check, it's on the website. You can have a look. But I mean, picking one's hard, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, some part of me wants to pick. There's a beautiful moment in any music career that kicks off, which is just that moment when it feels like everything's snowballing, and you can't keep up with what's happening. And I remember days when we sold out 300 cat venue in London, and I was just like, holy shit. And then my manager would say, well, we booked an 800 cat one for the next tour, which we're announcing tomorrow. And I'd be like, what? And then that one sold out 2 months up front, so we announced the next one after that. And it was just, some of those moments were just crazy. Do you know what I mean? And I remember selling out Shepherd's Bush Empire and just thinking that I was essentially Elton John. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean? It was just kind of, it was an amazing feeling. Playing legendary venues overseas, playing 930 Club in Washington, DC was a huge one for me with the music I grew up with. Playing Stubbs in Austin, playing the Art House in Melbourne was brilliant. I mean, and then there's the weird shows. In January this year, I played one of the weirdest gigs I've ever played, which I will never, ever forget. And it was brilliant. I work with a charity in Sierra Leone called Way Out Arts, who do music with kind of homeless kids and slum kids and former child soldiers and people like that in Sierra Leone. It's fucking crazy. And it was my third trip out there, and there's a group out there called Blackstreet Family, who are like a big kind of gangster rap group who I've sort of become friends with. They'd organised a rap battle, right, between all the gangs of East Freetown, yeah, and we're talking about some heavy motherfuckers here, and they've all got their own little kind of gangs, and they've all got a rapper each, and it was a rap battle for all the gangs of East Freetown. And the Blackstreet guys told me, we'll be happy if it goes off with no violence. I was like, okay. And it was like in a car park by the side of the motorway. And then they said, do you want to open the show? And I said, what? Like, I'm a white guy with an acoustic guitar, doing my crappy Joe Strummer impression or whatever, and they were just like, no, you play. So I got up in front of about 300-400 East Freetown gangsters awaiting a rap battle with an acoustic guitar and said, hello, here are some songs. And it was fucking weird, and it was hardcore, and but I mean, it helped. I've been working with the studio they have out there, so if kind of enough people in the crowd are at least aware of who I was and why I was there, that it kind of gathered a bit of momentum. And I tried to play some sing-alongs, and I played for like 20 minutes, but like I came off stage, and I was out there with my friend Styx, who runs Joe Strummer Foundation, but also used to run a bar where I used to live, so we know each other for years. And he and I used to do a lot of kind of crazy raving squat party mad shit, and we were stood in the crowd watching the rap battle, and we just looked at each other and was like, we've been in some weird parties in our time, but this absolutely takes the biscuit, like by fucking miles. And drinking the stuff called palm wine, which is the most disgusting thing you've ever tasted in your life, and it's essentially petrol as far as I can tell, but like gets you very, very drunk. Yeah, we had a good time.
That is mental.
Amazing.
It was crazy.
Wait, why are you like a musician? Like, where did it all start?
The big question. Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, and I'm sure that you guys will have a moment like this in your own lives that you can relate to what I'm talking about. That I had this kind of light switch moment with rock and roll. My parents listened to like classical music and stuff like that, and then I stumbled across, funnily enough, an Iron Maiden record first of all, and I heard that, and then I watched the Freddie Mercury tribute concert live that had Metallica and Guns N' Roses and Queen, obviously, and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and people like that, and it was just this new world to me. And this one was like 10 years old, and it just blew my fucking mind. I've never felt like that before. And at the risk of sounding a little bit cheesy, like it still does that. There's nothing that I'm aware of that makes me personally feel the way that music does. And in particular, kind of noisy rock and roll music. But still, I like a lot of other stuff too. But like, there's nothing better than being in the front row at a Hold Steady show, losing your fucking mind. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's the greatest feeling in the world. Or indeed being in a practice room with some other people and banging out some loud tunes, or or finishing writing a song. It's just, it's there's nothing like it, and like I can appreciate other art forms, other types of music, or like painting or film or whatever, and I get it, and I get that for some people that's the thing that does that for them, and that's great. But just for me, like, there is no feeling in the world like a record. And right from the beginning of falling in love with it, I wanted to be involved in it and doing it too. So, I got the Argos starter pack electric guitar for Christmas when I was 11. And it's incomparable. There's nothing that's ever come close to it for me.
Brilliant. So obviously you've played Reading and Leeds a few times. I think was it didn't you play it 10 years in a row? Was it
10 years in a row, which is the record? I mean, that does involve counting Mongrel Horde, my side project thing as well, but nevertheless, it is still the record. And lucky me.
So is it any different playing like a festival to like say like an arena, or is it?
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, what I like about festivals is that it's a good place to make friends as a band. The thing is, if you're playing at a festival bill, there'll be people who might be like, oh, well, I've heard of that lot. And they're not going to buy a 20 quid ticket for a gig, but they might swing by. Do you know what I mean? Because they're there anyway. And therefore, you've got a chance to impress a whole bunch of people who might not otherwise hear you. And there's a sort of chaos at festivals that I really enjoy. I mean, Reading and Leeds is on the more kind of organised end of the spectrum, but there are some festivals where it just feels like everything's about to explode or blow up or fall over at any minute. And then you get up there and you play a gig, and that's really exciting. After a whole summer of festivals every year, I'm just dying for a sound check and like a real toilet and that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Backstage. But yeah, there's a magic to them. And I do think, at the risk of sounding like an idiot for a second, I do think that the UK does do festivals better than most, actually. I think that, like, if you take Glastonbury in particular into account, and then also some of the smaller festivals like Beautiful Days, 2000 Trees, even Kendall Calling, stuff like that, like, there's like, I love America, I love Americans, but Americans are still slightly figuring out what festivals are and how they're supposed to be, and it's a little bit kind of like my first festival. I remember playing at Coachella a few years ago, and they had like AstroTurf all over the entire site, and people walking around barefoot, and they had like misting guns, and I was just like, being at a festival is about buying E off somebody in a bunny suit and then getting trench foot. Do you know what I mean? It's not about misting guns. And yeah, so I'm attached to British festivals.
Yeah, I can't imagine going to a festival and it being all nice and cool.
That was it. It was like, this is way too nice. Like I need more dirt. Where's all the mud?
Warm weather as well. It needs to be raining. It needs to be raining.
Yeah.
Like your tent needs to be caught on fire or something as well.
Right, exactly. And if you can find the fucking thing, which if you're doing it right, you probably can't.
So, in all your years touring, what has been your favourite city to play in? Who's had the best fan base?
That's a good question. And it varies. I mean, well, there's kind of two separate questions there. In terms of kind of like fan base and reception, and I'm going to put the UK aside here because obviously that's where I'm from and it's where my career started and where it's kind of at its biggest and all the rest of it. So that's kind of an easy answer to that. Germany's amazing. It's got to be said. Like, German fans are bananas, and like, they're loyal and they're devoted, and there's shitloads of them. and they'll tell you what they think. Good Lord, they don't mince words over there. But yeah, I mean, like a good kicking German show can just be off the scale. Munich in particular. I happen to know a guy in Munich who like owns quite a few of the kind of small like underground bars in Munich, and like I always end up going drinking with him after shows, and it's always complete and utter bedlam. So that's pretty good. In terms of like cities themselves outside of the show, I mean, I have learned to love America through touring. I'd never really been before I was touring. I didn't really know much about it, and which didn't stop me having opinions about it. Good Lord, like a lot of British people. But like I have fallen hard in love with Texas over the years. There's a certain something going on in Texas. There's a mood to the place that I just adore, and I spent a couple of months in Fort Worth a couple of years ago making an album. And I was kind of, the guys in my band were coming out sort of one by one, and there were long stretches where it was just me and the producers there, and they obviously had their families and stuff, and I was kind of like kicking it in Fort Worth on my own for a month, and it was fucking awesome. Like, again, just like, it's a city you can get in some serious trouble in. So I had a good time.
No, it's just been pretty mad to have you on here, because I'm quite a big fan of yours. So I've seen you like 4 or 5 times over
okay, thank you very much.
Years. I went to the Bournemouth show on the Be Kind tour.
Oh yeah,
that was really good. Like,
cool, thank you.
How much effort and all that you put in, it's like mad, and especially to be in like an arena as well.
Yeah, who did we have on that tour as support?
Jimmy Weld and her name.
Grace Petrie. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
Grace
both
Petrie.
Really good.
Grace Petrie, by the way, who I love and I think is a genius. And we did the whole tour together, which was about 2 weeks. And every day, obviously, as I always do, I was shouting out the supporters on stage, being like, "Have you guys? I hope everyone saw." And I said Grace Petrie because that's what it looks like when it's written down, right? Doesn't it? And I said this every fucking night in front of tens of thousands of people, and then on the last day of the tour at Ali Pally, she came up to me and said, "By the way, it's Petrie," and I was like, "Why are you telling me this now?" Do you know what I mean? I feel like I need to go back and do all those fucking shows again so I could say your name properly. I felt like such an arsehole. But yeah, she's amazing. And touring with Jimmy, well, good Lord. I mean, that, you know.
How did that happen? How did you pull that one off?
Well, I mean, I know Jim Adkins reasonably well. We've met over the years on tour through mutual friends and stuff, and he is a genuinely lovely human being, just a really sweet and kind guy. And I think I had the idea. I sort of wanted to take out like a sort of big American band as a main support to make a bit of a statement, as they say. And their name came up in conversation, and I was just like, I mean, I could send them a text. And you know, I kind of expect him to say no, because first of all, they're a lot bigger than us in America, and secondly, you know, I bought Clarity when it came out in the 90s, and I've been listening to that band since I was a kid, and there is a part of me that feels a little bit like a fraud going on after them, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why the fuck are we on second? But yeah, you know, and he was receptive, and we had some negotiations and blah, 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 and all that bollocks. But yeah, it worked out. They were up for it, and they said yes, and I was really, really blown away by that.
Do you still get nervous when you go on stage?
Generally speaking, no, but it's about expectation in terms of nerves, in the sense that, like, you know, I'm trying to say this without sounding like a prick, but like if I'm about to go on stage at like an academy venue, let's say, or even if it's in the middle of an arena tour and we've already done a few shows, I roughly know what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I know what the stage is going to feel like. I know where the audience are and how many of them there are, and it's just, and how they're going to respond to a degree. And, you know, it's just, and in that case, I don't get nervous. I do get excited, which is a different feeling, because I still fucking love what I do. But like, it's not quite, I'm not like, whereas there are shows when I do get nervous. That one in Sierra Leone being a prime fucking example of that, because I had no idea what was going to happen. Similarly, like a few years ago, my oldest sister lives in Lancaster, and her son, my nephew, Ed, who at the time was about 6, actually, bloody hell, he's just turned 13, so this is 7 years ago. Anyway, I was passing through Lancaster on tour, and I stayed at my sister's house, and she'd asked me if I could play at school assembly at his primary school the following morning, and I said yes, because I do everything my sister tells me to do. And I was so scared. There were 46-year-old kids in a room. And it's just like, I have no idea how to navigate my expectations here. Like, what the fuck is going to happen here? And like, I didn't know what to play. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not a primary school teacher. Good Lord. My mum was for years and years and years. But like, yeah, I remember before we played, but I was properly like shaking with fear, just being like, oh my God, what if they don't like me? Kind of, you know, and I'd suggested to my sister that I could do like the wheels on the tour bus go round and round or something. And she was like, that's a bit patronizing. And I said, there's 6. But yeah, and in the end it was cool. It went really well and they were into it. And I played for like 15 minutes or something. But like, yeah, that was, if I don't know what's going to happen, then I get nervous.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. Yeah, I presume like in the early years it was like that because you didn't know what to expect.
I try hard not ever to get bored of it or to be jaded or like blasé about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like any opportunity to stand in front of a room full of people or a field full of people and play music that you wrote and anyone give a shit is an enormous thing. It's an enormous privilege, and I never want to be somebody who takes that for granted or thinks that it's boring or whatever, you know. And I don't. And you know, I feel good on stage. I feel comfortable on stage. I really like it, and it's something. It's pretty much the only thing in life that I'm confident that I'm good at, and therefore I fucking love it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah. So, sorry, I'm ranting now, but like,
no, that's fine.
Yeah, I just you know, and indeed with reference to this year, God, I fucking miss it. You wouldn't believe, and cannot wait until I can go back.
I think like a lot of like people that do go to gigs on the regular, like are starting to realize, oh shit, I do really miss gigs. Like you sort of kind of take it for granted because you have it, and now it's like now we don't. It's like, oh. Yeah, because it has like a family feel to it, like it's
right. Well, this is it. Like, I mean, first of all, one of my best friends said to me the other day, he was like, just before lockdown 1 started, a band that he liked were playing locally, and he didn't go because he works in the music industry and he goes to a lot of gigs. And, I'll see him again. And he's like, now he's like, I would go and see any band in the whole world. Like, I couldn't give a fuck. I just want to see a band. But also, like, I think one of the silver linings to lockdown, and there's a lot more cloud than silver linings, but one of the silver linings has been it's really precisely focused in on what is special about gigs. Because, you know, at a live stream, there's still an artist playing and people watching. So those components of a gig are still there. But it's not the same. So you ask yourself, why is it not the same? And the answer is because you don't have that sense of community and that sense of gathering people together in a room, you know, and bringing people from all walks of life and pushing them together and making them realize they have more in common and blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's something, it's made me really, really realize what is special about a gig as opposed to a stream or whatever.
Have you go to any social distance gigs at all?
I've played a few and they were weird. I mean, they were good in the sense that like the weirdness was counterbalanced by everybody's excitement at just being there. But there's very much a vibe about them that they've got to just be a stopgap thing. That can't be how it is forever. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how we'll get out of this long term, but there it is. Guys, I'm going to have to run, I'm afraid, because I've got another interview starting any second.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thanks for your time.